Hey guys, what is going on? Can you believe it? The final round of Super Rugby before the playoffs. Take a look at this graphic. Let's jump right in. You are a very happy camper if your team is one of the 5 teams here that are locked in. Brumbies, Chiefs, Crusaders, Reds, Hurricanes. They're good. What we're focused on this week is these teams in the hunt. Moana Pasifika, the Blues, and the Waratahs. So we're going to go through all the games this weekend. Here they are. These are the fixtures. So what are we immediately looking at? We are looking at Blues Tars. That is huge. We are looking at Canes. That is massive. But these other games at the front are important too, because you really want to lock down one of the top 3 places. It's a strange playoff mix, but if you're in the top 3, you get a home quarterfinal. Kind of weird, but that's just how it is, guys. So here we go. The Highlanders, they have no shot. No shot, but they can play spoiler, and they are dangerous in this role. Cameron Miller is back at 10. I think that's great because, look, he missed an important kick last week. Could have won the game for his team against the Crusaders, that Southern derby. He didn't do it. I think it's good to get him back out there, get his confidence back up. He's a great number 10. One for the future. I still believe in this kid. Falau Fakatava, you know, he's still got a few rough edges to his game. He always might have some rough edges to his game, but man, is he dynamic. Man, are his line breaks good, and his kicking game is pretty deft too. Still no Tangitau. He is injured. He had groin surgery. He could be eligible for All Black selection, but that's a big ask to vault right into the All Blacks for the first time off a pretty major injury. You know, with Radamai Tavuki Neepkins at the back, there's always a chance, but I'm intrigued to look at the opposition here. A little bit scary. You know, I think the Chiefs just want to absolutely pour cement on their number 1 slot, play out the finals in Waikato. They are rotating their team a bit. No Takiahau at 2. He moves to the bench. Interesting one. You get Finau promoted off the bench. He's been a bit of an impact man. This week he's going to start. I kind of like that. All Black selectors might like it too. But there's a feeling of having enough star power out there to win this game and possibly win it well, but keeping a little bit of gunpowder dry. Cortez Ratama, for instance, he's on the bench. Leroy Carter, he's at 14. He can play 11. Normally, you know, might prefer to play 11. He can play both wings. So he's showing his versatility. That might be something the All Black selectors notice. I think the Chiefs surely will win this one. Should be a no-brainer, but you know, we thought it was probably a no-brainer that the Crusaders would beat the Highlanders, and it took the Highlanders beating themselves last week for the Crusaders to win. So we'll see. Moving on to the Brumbies and the Crusaders. Now, Brumbies. Welcome back, Lolesio. Probably the best 10 in Oz. You know, he was stretched off. Looked like he had a really bad injury a few weeks back. He's in the mix here. If he's playing well enough, if he's the dominant 10, he will be selected against the Lions. So his form is going to be one to watch. If his form is comparable to others, Schmidt's going to go a different way, build towards 2027. I think that's his preference. So Lolesio needs to really put daylight between him and the next 10s. Fascinating if you're an Aussie fan. Otherwise, Hooper, Valentini, Corey Toole, Ikitau, come on. I mean, just the familiar brigade here. They are playing at home. Let's have a look at the Crusaders here. Well, immediately what jumps out to me is Ethan Blackadder, that very good player who's nevertheless made of glass. He's starting at 6. This guy just can't get consistent minutes. It's hard to see him going right back into the All Blacks. But some reinforcements elsewhere. I mean, Cody Taylor's been in and out of the squad. Moana Nu's been fantastic deputizing for him. But that's a good-looking All Black front row. You've got the All Black incumbent captain, Scott Barrett, there. And that's a nice back row. For me, you have good balance there. Christie and Blackadder are great at the breakdown. But, you know, there's that guy coming off the back of the scrum, Leo Willie. I just like his impact and his physicality. I think that's a good-looking loose forward mix. They'll probably create havoc. But it's the midfield. No Havili, Dallas McLeod, Levi Amua, not their best midfield combination. This combination has leaked tries. I'm just saying, Tom Wright cutting back on the inside, Ikitau stepping around Amua. I could see that happening on a cold Canberra night. Tough one, guys. You almost want to go with the Brumbies for this one. This is a tough game for the Crusaders. They might be missing that line-breaking skill of Will Jordan. They need to break the line better than they did last week. Let me know what you think. Sound off in the comments. Moving on here to the Blues. Well, look, Mark Talea is going offshore. This might be his last home game for Auckland. Interesting that Christie and Barrett is restored as the 9-10 combination there. The most experienced. You know, Funaki's been the guy at 9, but Christie jumps right back in just as the playoffs are looming here. So the Blues really need to beat the Waratahs to have a chance at that top 6 spot. Satutu and Papali'i, they've come a long way. It's a great-looking team when you got Talea and Clark. Those are all black wings at the back. They can do a lot of damage. But the opponents... Bit of chopping and changing at 10 here. I mean, Edmund's on the bench. You got Jack Bowen in there. You got Lawson Crichton at 15. So they have a lot of options at 10. They are rotating them around a bit. Have worried a little bit, just as I have with the Reds, that could be disruptive. Maybe not quite in that playmaking rhythm. But then again, the Crusaders have had Taha Kemara injured, and that's knocked them off their rhythm with Rivers Reihana not quite hitting the heights of Taha Kemara, and James O'Connor not quite convincing when he started. These guys are without their superstar fullback, Suali'i. He's still on the mend from a broken jaw. It's a tough one, guys. What do you think? I mean, both of these teams could conceivably make the top spot here. I think it's going to come down to the breakdown. That's been an Achilles heel for the Blues earlier in the season. If Langy Gleeson has a big game, if Wilson has a big game, could make life difficult for the Aucklanders. We'll say Blues. We'll just go with that Kiwi bias. Oh, very excited for this one. Now, interesting changes here when we look at this Hurricanes team. Brett Cameron moves to 10. He's come back off the bench. He's looked fantastic. Look, he is a more seasoned player than Ruben Love, who I'm always beating the drums for. But I'm happy with this team because Ruben Love's at 15. He's a dynamite fullback. I just think you got to have Ruben Love starting. You can't drop him to the bench. So if Cameron and Love are going to be sort of like dual playmakers, I am 100% cool with that. And we can't forget Cameron really guided the team well last year. That form was consistent and it was impeccable. So Lakai and Karifi are your 8 and 7. Good-looking back row there. Brad Shields drops to the bench, just getting a few less minutes through some of these Warriors who have played a lot this season. And maybe, you know, look, they are locked in. That was a big win they had last week. They're locked into the playoffs, so they're just being a little bit careful here. Little bit careful, rotating the stocks just a tiny bit. Noah Safo-Amua, that hurts. Pretty decent substitute there at number 2. But All Blacks around him at 1 and 3. Xavier Numia and Tyrell Lomax, who's celebrating a big milestone. Good for him. He deserves it. Yeah, but the guy to keep your eye on is going to be Billy Proctor. I mean, he's just been magic since he came back at 13. Pretty much the man of the match, or just about every time he's played. But will the fairy tale end? Well, what's important is that 6, 7, and 8, their best possible combo, Faialangi, Savia, they got to be out there. You know, if they're not playing at 6 and 7, you almost think there's no hope. But Tom Savage, you know, he's been the glue holding this team together in the middle there, and Pellegrini, sensational at 10, such a good kicking game. You know, I still think they missed that counter-attacking punch when William Havili's not playing. But nevertheless, this team can do it. Look, it's going to come down to emotion. It's going to come down to intensity and whether Moana can lift. Now, they had that horrific drubbing at the hands of the Chiefs. You probably want to forget that if you're a Moana fan, but, you know, 85 points were put on them. That could be a good thing this week. The silver lining is they're going to be on the edge of the edge. Look, they got their asses kicked. It was one of the all-time Super Rugby massacres. You know, it reminded me of that time that the Waratahs shipped 96 points. Maybe that's going to harden their resolve. We're about to find out. I want to go for Moana Pasifika. I think it's the best story in Super Rugby. I'm going to pray for them, even though I think the Hurricanes are probably a better team from 1 through 15, a bit more settled, a little bit more All Black star power. But hey, Ardie Savea is worth about 3 All Blacks. So I'm going to be romantic and pick Moana Pasifika to get into the finals. Now, let's look at this game here. The Reds, again, chopping and changing. This week it's Liner in at 10. Lots of chopping and changing at 10. At least Tate McDermott is regularly starting now at 9. Look, Tom Liner didn't have his kicking boots on last week. That really hurt this team against the Canes. He's a good player, though, so we'll back him to get that aspect right. They're going to need to put the scoreboard pressure on in this game. But look, with Harry Wilson at 8, could be the Wallabies captain, probably will be. Fraser McWright at 7. I mean, you're off to a good start. So this is a formidable team. They deserve to be locked in. Talent all the way through. Again, you know, as we're seeing with some of these teams that are safe, resting, rotating players a little bit. You know, Dalgunu's on the bench here instead of starting, but you've got, you know, Hunter Paisami, he's a gun at 12. Jock Campbell's been starting week after week, so fairly consistent backline. And then it's these boys, the Drua. You know, they got Wonga at 6. They got Armstrong Revere at 10, who's probably their best option there. It's a pretty settled team. But in Brisbane, after what happened last week, I got to go with the Reds here. I got to think they just want to put their foot on the neck of these blokes, really hammer home the fact that, hey, we were leading this competition at one point. We've slipped up a couple times, but we are in that mix of top dogs. We are pushing for the grand final. They're going to want to get as many points as they can. And, you know, ideally, they'll be playing a game in Brisbane, but we're going to have to see how the other results go. But they're going to be wanting to play a game in Brisbane when it comes to those knockout quarterfinals. But we'll see. It's going to be a hell of a week, guys. Cannot wait. Amazing rugby ahead. So I'll be back on Saturday, my time, to break down all of the games from this round, and then we're going to look ahead to the finals. I'll see you there. Like, subscribe, send this video to someone who loves rugby. I'll be back for another one real soon. Take it easy, guys. Bye for now.